Hi, I'm Axel. I'm back here today with Sunny and Cher to continue what I've been doing, ranking the best songs of 2023 because everyone needs a hobby. And we're picking up at number 80 today in Japan. This is Yuyoyuppe featuring Natsuki, Karin and Datte. Which Datte, I believe, means something like, like how in English, when like your mum would be like, why are you doing this? And you're like, because. I think that's what it means. Don't take my word on that. I did some very preliminary research. I did not speak a word of Japanese, but I can tell you about with certainty that this is an absolute banger of a song. If you like metal or any kind of heavy music, please do yourself the favor of listening to this. Leave aside all your preconceptions about like kawaii and Vocaloid music as a style, as an art form that's increasingly popular in the internet nowadays, and just approach this simply as a piece of heavy music. And if you like metalcore, if you can get into that somewhat more theatrical side of the genre, I guarantee you're going to have a lot of fun with this. Staying in East Asia with pick number 79, an artist that has broken a bit more into the critical mainstream of sort of Western rock music. Platforms like Pitchfork or reviewers like Anthony Fantano have given this guy shout-outs. It's Parannoul from South Korea with Sound Inside Me, Waves Inside You. This is the kind of almost mythical bedroom shoegaze musician who's been putting out album after album of really, really interesting textured music. This pick is from his 2023 album After the Magic, a song that, like all of Parannoul's best music, makes him sound like a levitating voyager over some distant mountains, like some kind of anime hero. That's what Sound Inside Me, Waves Inside You evokes in me, and it's, a wonderful song, highlight of the After the Magic album. 'Cause this is Thriller Night. So these guys are basically the Russian Yeet. I mean something very specific, not inherently derogatory by that, even though that might sound off-putting, which is to say, like Yeet, these two Russian artists, Kai Angel and I believe it's pronounced Nice Mice. I don't know how the nine turns into a nice, but I think it's Nice Mice. Anyway, they have been introduced to a unique, unprecedented kind of hip-hop delivery by, first of all, Playboi Carti and the Rage movement. I have a lot of respect for Playboi Carti as a musician, if not as a person. And I think it's fair to name his name and his name only when making this statement, because even though he took influence from histrionic, ad-lib strewn style of vocals that in hip-hop can be traced back to everyone from like Young Thug to Lil Wayne, all the way back to Ghostface Killah. And even though the Rage subgenre as it exists today is not due entirely to him, but developed as a movement, Carti is, I would argue, the preeminent absurdist of hip-hop as an art form. Someone who has pushed the post-lyrical turn in contemporary hip-hop pretty much as far as it can possibly go. And I think that's created a really, really fascinating environment for rappers coming after him to work in. In particular, international non-English language rappers who are thereby freed from the constraints of lyrics having to mean anything and can instead embrace the euphonic qualities of their language. Now, euphony might be a strange concept to bring up in the context of Rage, which might well be the most discordant, cacophonous, and just all-around ear-attacking subgenre of hip-hop. But if you're a fan of hip-hop as an art form, then the way these guys ride the beat becomes a thing of wonder. Like, it's hard to tell how much of this, like with most of Rage music, it's hard to tell how much of it is pre-written and how much of it is just ad-libbed, improvised. But almost every single bar on this thing has this idiosyncratic catchiness to it. It's just wonderful. This is Kai Angel, Nice Mice, Thriller, two Russian rappers. One of them, Kai Angel, is from Bryansk, which is kind of just near Ukraine, and actually where the war has kind of at parts filtered into Russia. The other guy, Nice Mice, is, I believe, from Vladivostok, all the way in the far east of Russia. But I understand that both rappers have, since the beginning of the full-scale Russo-Ukrainian war, left the country and are now living in the United States. And in any case, I think it's unfair to discount artists based on the political regime they live under and the actions taken by their government. So Kai Angel, Nice Mice, two of the most exciting rappers in Rage on the international scene. I mean, these guys, they've got so many more songs that are absolutely worthy of checking out. Lipstick from the same year of 2023 is an absolute banger. From 2022, the year before, there's Trivial, which is possibly even better. And like, I think maybe, just maybe, rappers like this are actually a great gateway into Rage as a style of hip hop, because I understand that for a lot of people, especially people over a certain age, it just seems a bit too loud and all over the place and chaotic to be enjoyable. And I get that point of view, but maybe having rappers not rapping in the English language creates a sort of kind of, an easier point of entry, because you're more detached from the lyrics, you're more detached from, the silly bars that they're spitting, if you can even call them bars at that. And you can kind of just appreciate the way that even with all this sort of industrial chaos and clamor, it all still comes together into something coherent, catchy, and energetic. Right, moving away from Russia now to the United States with this next artist, but let's stick with the argument that I started to make here a little bit about rage music and other subgenres of contemporary hip-hop with Lucy Bedroque, Infinitude, Uroboros. This is just one song with kind of like the dash in the middle there. Like, rap music right now, right? And I think this is arguably true for most of its history, but right now and in the last 10 years, I would say this is particularly the case. It has got an experimental edge to it that most people, including most music fans, are fairly oblivious to, especially because nowadays that kind of stuff tends to get buried in specific corners of the internet, at least until it gets so big that it becomes difficult to ignore and it begins to filter into the mainstream, as was the case with everything from cloud rap to drill to plug, and often with kind of some of the edges sanded down while that process is happening. Vaguely touching on all of those subgenres and probably about 24 more, the extremely online music of Lucy Bedroque is conceptually probably best put into the genre of digicore, which has itself become increasingly familiar to the more genteel corners of music criticism with Jane Remover's success, especially with the Revenge Seekers album in 2025. And I think as a genre, digicore is probably one of the best exponents of the unlimited creativity that you're likely to find if you search well enough in the noisier corners of the contemporary underground music world, also the hip-hop world, because even though digicore is kind of like straddling that edge to sort of mash up EDM style music, with artists like Lucy Bedroque, there is definitely kind of a firm anchoring within hip-hop. So this pick here comes from Lucy Bedroque's 2023 album Sisterhood. It's kind of post Playboy Carti music. It's a mid 2020s take on, I guess, cloud rap distortion made into something really challenging and noisy and often downright uninviting. So I don't blame you for just immediately turning this off. I think you definitely have to approach this stuff with the right mindset, especially if you're not used to the high intensity soundscapes of even more recent microgenres like Hex, like Sigilcore or Rage, or even just plain baffled by the mention of these names. But on songs like Infinitude, Uroboros, I think Lucy Bedroque's genius is undeniable. This almost 6-minute long cut gradually builds up from a kind of stuffed digital soundscape in the first minute, which grows hypnotic as we hear Bedroque repeating incantatory vocals saying she's a slut. Becomes quite hypnotic and much proggier with every minute, becoming a really ambitious kind of electronic composition that ultimately, after a false end, explodes into a euphoric mosh pit ready release. But before you start thinking that I only listen to really weird, niche, noisy hip hop, here's some Travis Scott, Sirens. Because sometimes, Travis does just hit those heights that for the moment, you believe that whole ridiculous cult of personality, cult of serious artist thing that he's built around himself and among his fan base, because the music is just that good. But it's not all rap today. Some of it is also rat. Protomartyr, we know the rats. Now, I hope this isn't too absurd a claim, and I think it's going to offend fans of both bands, but for me, Protomartyr is kind of like the National of the dark side. Like, Joe Casey is every bit as literate and as captivating a narrator as Matt Berninger. Scott Davidson and Alex Leonard's rhythm section is every bit that of the Devendorfs, and each band's releases are as superficially similar, and then their style only changing as incrementally, while they're still slowly building up a classic and really consistent discography. In terms of talent, brimming in all parts of their songcraft, I think Protomartyr are currently in their alligator/boxer era, with 2023's formal growth in the desert stacked with dark and moody post-punk. Nothing beating the jangly post-punk tale of urban decay that is We Know the Rats. Right, so I'll admit that the fact that the cover art for Blur's The Ballad of Darren was taken at a Scottish Lido with sea view on a rainy, cold winter day and is thereby such a slice up of my own life that has probably made this album just a little bit dearer to me than to the average Blur fan, that has made it such a nice comfort on cold winter days in Glasgow. But album standout The Narcissist is just an exceptional Blur song, whichever way you slice it. Number 73, Titanic, Cielo, Falso. So if Guatemala's Mabe Frati has over the course of the last few years garnered a reputation for making some of the most beautiful, some of the most sophisticated art music around, her work has also tended to come with disclaimers about the music's relative lack of accessibility. That's very much not the case for this track from her collaborative project Titanic with Mexico's Héctor Tosta, alias Y La Católica, on Cielo Falso, which boogies ahead like the best of Destroyer circa 2006. Number 72. So the best Cassandra Jenkins song of the year weirdly came in the form of Julie Byrne's Summer Class. Julie Byrne, American singer-songwriter who took her folksy indie to new heights with the chippering synthesizer ambience of Summer Glass, a song that sounds more than a little bit just like walking on water. And finishing up with the last pick of today at number 71, I'm just realizing that unintentionally these 10 songs have gone from very loud and noisy to progressively quieter, gentler, and more ambient. That was unintentional, but it only makes sense that we are finishing up here at 71 with Hayden, Pedigo, The Happiest Times I Ever Ignored, which is one for my playlist. I cruise the wide open road crying over spilt PBRs. Hayden Pedigo from Amarillo, Texas is behind some of the most beautiful ambient country music you'll ever hear. And yeah, you should absolutely check out the album that this is from. That was it for me today. I'm going to keep doing this. I hope you are enjoying them, whoever you may be. And yeah, keep tuning in to find out what other picks I've got in store. And that's me for today. I'm gonna finish my cup of tea.